Start. Okay. So I think we can do it the third time. We'll start by, we'll all recite together the song of the Sannyasin. You all have copies, huh? Wake up the note, the song that had its birth far off, where worldly taint could never reach, in mountain caves and glades of forest deep, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame could ever dare to break, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and bliss that follows both. Sing high that note, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or darker baser ore. Love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. No, slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Let darkness go, the will-o'-the-wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death, and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquers self. Know this and never yield, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Who sows must reap, they say, and cause must bring the sure effect. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whoso wears a form must wear the chain. Too true, but far beyond both name and form is Atman, ever free. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. They know not truth, who dream such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife, and friend. The sexless self, whose father he, whose child, whose friend, whose foe is he, who is but one. The self is all in all, none else exists. And thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. There is but one, the free, the knower, self, without a name, without a form or stain. In him is Maya dreaming all this dream. The witness, he appears as nature, soul. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Where seekest thou that freedom, friend, this world nor that can give? In books and temples vain thy search. Thine only is that hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then cease lament, let go thy hold, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Say peace to all. From me no danger be to aught that lives. In those that dwell on high, in those that lowly creep. I am the self in all. All life, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and fears. Thus cut thy bonds, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Say naught. No praise or blame can be, where praiser praised and blamer blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be, nor he who owns the least of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give these up, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Have thou no home? What home can hold thee, friend? The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food what chance may bring. Well cooked or ill, judge not. No food or drink can tame that noble self which knows itself. Like rolling river free, thou ever be, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Few only know the truth. The rest will hate and laugh at thee, great one, but pay no heed. Go thou the free from place to place and help them out of darkness, Maya's veil. Without the fear of pain or search for pleasure, go beyond them both, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Thus, day by day, till karma's power spent, release the soul forever. No more is birth, nor I, nor thou, nor God, nor man. The I has become, the all is I, and bliss. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Okay, we did the first two. Did we do the third one? Yeah. We're not going to go through everything. There's no time. But if there are any particular verses or questions that you're most interested in, you can let me know. Otherwise, I'll just pick a few random things.
What is the will of the wisp talked about in third?
The will of the wisp. This is something that you feel like you can grab hold of, but it's always elusive, kind of beyond our reach, beyond our grasp. So let darkness go, the will of the wisp with divine divine. Yeah, I think this means all of these desires that we have, these things that we think will be able to achieve, that will achieve happiness in this world and contentment by getting more wealth and power, things like that. The will of the wisp, which anybody, you can Google it. Huh?
See, I know what it means.
Okay, tell us.
In some marshy land where there's a lot of methane and other gases, so sometimes a fire ignites, and then it goes like a thing, and it goes from place to place, depends on where there's more gas or not. But you never can catch it because it's a fire going all over the place.
Okay, somebody else look it up. I don't know if that's exactly, is that it?
So it's some apparition, it appears.
It's an apparition, the will of the wisp.
When you follow it, you cannot reach it.
You can, so something elusive. So something elusive.
And it's in the below, so I think it's below.
Okay, yeah, so I think the point is that we all have some idea that if we can only get this, if we can only achieve that, then somehow we'll be satisfied in life. And we're looking in the wrong direction. We can get it. It's not that we don't get any contentment out of being successful at things. So sometimes we take these things in an absolute sense. I don't like this idea that every desire creates another desire, that every possession creates a new bondage. If we're sensible people, we can enjoy things and we can have goals, but if we think we'll get any ultimate peace from these things, then that won't come. That'll be something else. But this question of desires, I think we do a disservice sometimes when we tell people that you have to get rid of desire. First of all, it's impossible. Second of all, there are all different classes of desires, different types, and we approach them all differently. If we look at Thakur's teachings, he'll never say that give up all desires. We have this concept, it's called bhoganta. Bhoganta, reaching the end of enjoyment. And Thakur says very often that we have to explore things. We have to enjoy things. If we just give it up, this desire for something without even knowing what it is, that desire may remain a whole lifetime. And there may be very simple desires that we can fulfill, and they're gone. So it's not true that every desire is pouring oil on fire, that it increases, that we do it once. There are many desires we do once, and then we're done with it. These bucket list desires. I mean, so many things in my lifetime I know. Now, we may say that these are good things. Of course, they're good things. I had the desire to go to Kedarnath. I went to Kedarnath. Do I want to go again? No. I don't want to go again. I did it once. It was wonderful. Yeah, there's always, sometimes a fear, if I do it again, I won't like it as much the second time. So there are a lot of things, and there are a lot of things, worldly things, that we have to experiment with. We have to try. We have to see, really, all my life I wanted to get a fancy car or something. Then we find, so we do it. We get it. Then we find out that it's so expensive for maintenance, and the gas is more expensive, and it's really not so wonderful. Or we say, yeah, it's really nice, but it increases my pride. And constantly worried I'll get a scratch. So we experiment. This is what Thakur did. We have 3 examples. What are the examples?
One is the shawl.
Okay, so the Mathur Babu, he said he had a desire. So you could get these shawls that are embroidered with gold and silver. They cost a fortune, very expensive, even in those days, very expensive. So Thakur, Mathur Babu, he would do whatever Thakur wanted. So he put it on, and he walked back and forth, and parading about it a little bit, like a very wealthy person. And then he thought, well, what does it do? It doesn't. In fact, there are cheaper things that'll keep you warm better, right? What did it do? It just increases rajas, he said. Immediately he threw it off and started stomping on it and maybe spitting on it even and everything. Mother said, no, don't do it. I'll take it back and get my money back. Then the second thing.
With the silver hubble
Bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he thought, what will, because Thakur used to smoke tobacco in a hubble bubble or a little chillum, something. It was very common. They all did it in those days, a hookah, something like that. So they make very fancy ones, great big things, and with all ornaments and silver and everything like that. The bowl of it, where the water is kept, pure silver, so it was very expensive. So we got one, and he smoked it lying on one side and lying on the other side. But the same. What is it? You're getting the same tobacco and everything. So he gave it up. Then third thing. Kolkata is famous for sweetmeat chops.
Oh, yeah.
So he wanted to.
Yeah, there was one special.
There was another fagu.
Agur Dokan.
Dokan, yeah. I don't know if it was that one. That was later. But anyhow, so he wanted to taste. Everyone raved about, this particular shop. You won't get sandesh any place else like that. So he wanted to try all of it. So he would put it in his mouth and move it from one side to the other side, and he would discriminate. And he would say, yeah, okay, it touches the tongue for a few seconds, and then it's gone. It'll end up like everything else ends up. He'll have to go to the pine grove after another day, and it'll be gone. It'll be the same thing. So we can do these things with some desires. We have to know what desires are dangerous desires. What thing, and everyone is different. For some people, it's money. For some people, it's power. They get a little taste of power and want more and more and more and more. Those things we know that we have to just cut out. That we have to avoid those. And that's really pouring ghee on the fire. So otherwise, we won't know it's a will o' the wisp. We'll see, especially people who have never had something, poor people. This is why Swamiji said, let them enjoy the world a little bit. Otherwise, they'll think that this is the most important thing they're missing in life. So he said, for the poor, even a little luxury, he said, in one of his letters, I think, even a little luxury for the poor, let them enjoy something in life. And so then they can reach the Bhoganta. They can reach that point where, no, I want something higher. So this, for those who are ready to renounce, whether a sannyasi or whether a householder, they're ready to go beyond these things, then they recognize that these things will always just beyond our reach. Ever running, never reaching. This is from my play is done, I think. Another one of Swamiji's poems. Ever running, never reaching. Always just beyond our grasp. I think Will o' the Wisp is something like that. Huh? So we have to come to realize that we'll never be able to quench our thirst with these things. Into the water of the mirage. It just won't work. But we have to experience. We have to get blows in the world. Sometimes we have to have disappointments and frustrations in order to realize it. Yeah.
I have two comments on it.
Yeah.
One is, I said Pagur Dokan and that was wrong. Pagur Dokan is the place from where
He got sweets, the things
we
for
got kachori
Girish.
for Girish,
For Girish.
and he said, very good, Pagur Dokan.
But it could have been the same place. We don't know.
It could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and said, don't eat too much. And,
Yeah.
and the other one is, by that notion that the one who has never had anything should taste something. Does that mean then, for a society which is very, very poor, almost everybody except a few, then the work then first is to give them some standards of living, housing, healthcare,
Yeah,
etc.
Swamiji was very, very clear about this. He said, first bread, then religion.
Yeah.
Don't stuff religion down the throats of people who are starving for a loaf of bread.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you cannot say bread is nothing,
No.
house is nothing.
No, you can't say, that your final satisfaction will only come from God realization. They're starving for a loaf of bread. Yeah, a crust of bread or something.
Yes, Maharaj.
So that was Swamiji's a brilliant understanding of how the human condition, what the human condition is like. That for people who have nothing, they have to have a little bit of bhoga before they can have bhoganta. Before they can reach the end of it, they have to have a little bit of it. So, and don't preach renunciation. He said, what is the renunciation of a pauper? We want the renunciation of a prince. Say Buddha, that was real renunciation. He had something to give up. Now, of course, we have poor people who become very good sadhus. That's also, they're born with a good samskaras and everything. But it's not that they're taken to a life of renunciation because they're disgusted with their life of poverty. It's genuine renunciation. That's a different thing, of course. And this thirst for life forever quench. This is a very difficult one. We read in the Raja Yoga of Hinivesha that this is one of the final desires. What does it mean? How do we give up this thirst for life? I always find it interesting that there are people that are faced with the worst possible type of life. People who are convicted of a murder. They'll know they have life imprisonment, maybe even solitary confinement, and yet they'll have their lawyer do everything possible so that they avoid being executed. I always find it curious that they know that there'll be really no enjoyment. What is it they're looking forward to? Yes, it's clinging to life. And clinging to life, partly, I think, comes from this idea that there's nothing else other than this life. If we have some conviction, especially if we're devotees, and we take very seriously what Thakur Ma said, that what did Holy Mother say? If you don't get realization during this lifetime, you'll get it at the time of death. And Thakur they'll come, they'll be with us at the time of death, and we don't know what happens at the time of death. We don't know anything about what this final realization is like, or liberation. We don't know much about any of these things at all. But we have this faith that this is not something to be shunned. This is something that we can actually look forward to. And we find, especially with sadhus, especially in our sadhus of our order that we know, we won't find this fear of death at all. And when the sadhu dies, it's a very joyous occasion. If you've ever been in Bellarmine, have you ever been there when a sadhu died? It was a fantastic thing. They'll be chanting and singing of songs, they'll carry the body. Some people may weep, of course, we'll miss them and everything, but it's considered a great thing. The sadhus lived the whole life, giving his life for Thakur's work and everything, striving for whatever type of realization, and the life well lived, and a joyful thing. So part of this clinging to life is this fear of death, maybe a little bit, it'll be a painful thing. Some people say, no, I'm not, I have no fear of death, I have the fear of dying. That they're struggling for breath and all of that. We can understand that. There may be some people who think that I led a very bad life, that I'll suffer, or there'll be some hell or something like that. That's also possible. But even people who lead a good life, most of the time, they want to live as long as they can. In this country, I think more money is spent, I read this years ago, more money is spent medically on the last 2 weeks of life than on a whole lifetime. Something crazy. And there, I know there are people like this. This is a devotee, lifelong devotee. Is going to the hospital. He's probably close to 100, and filling out this, end of life, this living will type of stuff and everything. And they're saying, what do you want us to fill out? The one thing is preserve life at any cost, something like that. He said, yes, do that one. So they're clinging to life it's so unrealistic. We know the story from Mahabharata. What is the most amazing thing? That day after day, we see people entering this mandir of Yama, and yet we think that we'll live forever. So it's something that we have to analyze the mind. Now, sometimes we worry about people would leave behind. Also, it's not always a selfish type of thing. Well, this is one nice thing about the life of the Sannyasin. We don't have to worry about anybody. There's nobody who depends on us for a living. There are people, they miss us and everything, but not like children will miss parents or anything like that. We have that freedom. It's one great advantage for us, that we don't have to worry about other people. We can understand that. But this clinging to life, we have to analyze that it's clinging to our ego sense and our individuality. That Swamiji used to say, especially in the West, that people have this tremendous fear that, if we have this samadhi or any of that, then we'll lose our individuality. If we merge in Brahman, we'll lose our individuality. Swamiji used to tease them. This individuality, he would say, you will lose that. And then he would say, but this is where we really achieve our real identity. We're not losing anything, we're gaining something. Anyhow, this is considered, even this is Raja Yoga, one of that final types of bondage that we have. That we cling to all sorts of other things, but just to life itself. That we want to go on and on and on, doesn't matter how painful or how old we are, or anything like that. That a very common feature. There'll be some, of course, who are the opposite. Life is painful, they even commit suicide and everything, or they look forward to it. So people, but this is just in general, that this is one type of bondage, and it's really this attachment to our ego sense and the individuality, and this idea that this life is all we have, that there's nothing more to life than this. If we don't have this, we don't have anything. Yeah.
Whereas we are told that, which is part of what you are saying, is that if it is time to go, you just go. The world will not depend on you, etc. However, sometimes you have plans. For example, I'm saying trivial plans are big plans. Let us say we should have had that little toilet next to this room, and when I go, my wife will be in trouble because she will not have that. Or when I go, we will not have had the younger one's wedding has not taken place. So even if you set aside money, there are so many things to take care of. All these, and sometimes even the car that we had should have repaired didn't get repaired. Oh, I wish I had repaired and then go. So how do you solve that problem? How do you say, or for you it's nothing, but for me, how do I say?
No, we also have the same thing. Suppose in the middle of our temple project.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how do you handle that?
At the end, we say this was a long dream anyhow. We don't say it in the middle of life, at the very end. Then Thakur says, then you don't worry about it. Will you be burning too much oil in the oil lamp?
Yeah, we do.
But the different type of answer is that we have to live this life in such a way that we finish all of the things that we want, we accomplish what we want to accomplish. We do that, then we have our retirement period of life. We turn things, we give up responsibility, and so try to take care of loose ends early enough in life, so that by the time we reach that retirement, this is the beauty of the theory of this.
Yeah. The
Ashrama theory. That after the householder stage of life, then we're free. Vanaprastha, whether we do that, we don't have to do the sannyasa stage. Is probably was never done by the vast majority of people. It was never meant to. Probably only meant for the Brahmins, actually. No one else was allowed to take sannyas anyhow, the Vedic scheme of things. So for most people, it would just this retirement stage of life. That retirement stage of life, if we're thoughtful, careful people, we've taken care of whatever we need to take care of. Kids are well settled, and if they're not, it's up to them. They have to fend for themselves at some point. Thakur says even the mother bird who feeds the baby bird all of the time, once he's big enough to fly, she'll peck it so it leaves the nest, and then it's on its own. So at some point, we just have to say, I'm not going to look back. I've done what I have to do, and little things are left, they'll get done. And we try to finish up things. We don't take up big new projects towards the end of life.
Yeah.
We have to be sensible. Yeah, I have this theory that this contentment at the end of life with regard to worldly things is very important. That leading a dharmic life, making sure that the family is well cared for, taking care of all these little things is very important to keep the mind clear at the end. Then there won't be worries about what will happen when I'm gone. This is very important. We don't pay enough attention to practical things sometimes. We think, just by force of mind and longing for God realization, at the end of life, we'll only think of God. We'll think of things that are on our mind and bothering us that we haven't finished, so better to finish them. There's so many practical things that affect not just the end of life, even when we sit for meditation. So many simple things that funny things that sometimes that we want to have a good meditation. What should we do? Clean our desk. We have old papers, everything there that is just piled up in a stack. Every day we say I should go through it. Every day we postpone it. These little things weigh on the mind a little bit. Sometimes we'll do it. We'll clean the house. We'll do something like that. We'll sit for meditation, and it's like we cleaned the mind. There's just one little thing that was weighing on us that we didn't even realize will be gone. So the way we live in the world, it affects everything. It affects the moment of death. It affects our meditation. It affects everything, our attitude in the world. These are very subtle things. This is why it's very important to be introspective. One thing that Thakur says is the idea about solitude. When we go into solitude, we can examine our lives. And we don't want to get too wrapped up. We don't want to always be psychoanalyzing ourselves, but it's good to take stock. The Swami Brahmananda, he used to say that at the end of the day, look back on the day and ask yourself, was it a day well lived? Did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? Did you waste your time? These things are good to take stock every once in a while. It doesn't have to be every day, but that was his recommendation. And he's somebody who's living up in, his mind is always in the Akasha someplace. But still, it's a practical advice. So these things are all important things. So analyze. Why does the person on death row do whatever he can to keep living? And just something inherent in human makeup. We want to continue to live. We'll fight to the death just to continue to live. But if we have some faith that wherever we come from, we'll go back. That we come from God, we'll go back to God. If we're reborn, that we hope we led a good life, we'll get another opportunity. That we have to practice acceptance and surrender and everything. And the ultimate surrender is to death. It's the ultimate surrender. And for this, the Sannyasin has to embrace death. He hugs the form of death. To him, the mother comes. His poem, Kali the Mother. And Thakur says one should always remember death. Now, it doesn't mean in a morbid sense. It means always remember that this life is transitory. That we're not going to take anything with us. We remember that, we remember death, and all of our attachments, they melt away. Well, these things that I'm clinging to, I'll leave them behind. They won't go with me. So why do I care so much about them now? So this is a great theme in spiritual life, that to meditate on the transitory. All of Buddhism is based on this. Everything is just floating by, is rushing by. Shankaracharya has a Bhaja Govindam. There's a beautiful, beautiful hymn that day turning into night is Dina Yaminyo Sayam Prataha Shishirva Santal Punarayat. Day and night coming and seasons are coming, this and everything. Then is Kala Karidati. This time is just playing a game with us. Gachati, but our life is just going by. This play of time. Kala, what does Kala mean?
Time.
What else does it mean?
Death.
Death. What else does it mean? Shiva.
Shiva. Oh.
Yeah, Kali, consort of Kala.
Kala.
Yeah. So look at that. Time is death, is God. These are all ultimate. Shiva, the one who withdraws everything. So this is the game. It's a game. And how long does a lifetime take? How long does a lifetime take? How long did the last 50 years take?
50 years.
It's like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at our age, at
Yes.
my age, I know that.
It just goes by. Yeah. So we can't, once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. And we wonder, did it really happen even? Well, this is, see, when we say this world is like a dream, we don't have to take this in any philosophical, metaphysical sense that we're projecting this and the dream level. But just like a dream, it just goes by. And if we look at it that way, this play of time, that I think that this was one of the real most important teachings that Sri Ramakrishna gives us. That he never talks about this world being unreal, he talks about being transitory. Now, what is the transitory nature of the world? What does that mean? Transitory nature of the world. Okay, nothing in this world will last. Everything is changing. Now, theoretically, suppose the house where we live, it's not going to change. It's not going to decay. It's going to remain exactly the same as it is for our whole lifetime at least, maybe forever. Okay? Is the world not still transitory? We're the ones who are floating by. It's not this external world. It makes no difference whether this external world remains as it is or doesn't remain. I'm the one. Huh? There's time, because this time is the nature of the self, of this lower self, of the mind. Everything is just one experience, another experience. Soon as what happened to yesterday? Yesterday is gone. That's the transitory nature of the individual. It's not so much this external world. Doesn't matter if things are changing or not changing. I am the one. That just yesterday I was a small child. What happened to that small child? Now I look at myself in the mirror, I hardly recognize myself. Who is this old man looking back at me? Huh? And then one day we'll look and we'll see that this old man is not even going to be there much longer. So that's the transitory nature of things. That's this game. Kala Kridati. Kala. This is a kind of the play of time. But Gachati Ayu, this life is go in the midst of that game. This is, you remember that I think it was Swami Turiyananda, that Thakur was talking about this play of Maya. And he said, but it's death to us. And what was Thakur's answer?
Who's there?
But who are you?
Uh-huh.
Who is that one? So we have to get established in this idea that this transitory nature is not my real nature. That I'm that eternal witness. Well, how do I know that I'm the same person I was as a small child? Where is that sense of identity? It's not in this physical body. This physical body, of course, there's a continuity. There's a continuity. There may not be a single cell in the body now that there was then, but there's a continuity. There's never a time where it disappears and a new body comes. Not that I wake up one morning and I'm in a different body. There's a continuity there, but that's not my sense of identity. My sense of identity is that I've been witnessing this throughout the whole lifetime. That's the only way I can feel that I'm the same person. I'm the same person I was when I was a small child, and yet I'm a completely different person. Completely different person. I may be a completely different person from the one I was 5 years ago. We have some people that they'll have some radical transformation that it can be in any field. It can be political, it can be religious, whatever, where they'll completely change their views on something. That somebody may say, yes, I was such a self-centered, selfish person before. And then I met this person and my whole life changed. And now I realized, and so I'm not the same person I was. And yet, the same I am not the same person I was. The same I. So that no matter how radical the change is, the same I. And what is that I? The witness, which is the real self. We'll get that in another one of the verses here. So how did we get to all of that? Thirst for life forever quench, from birth to death. Okay. He conquers all who conquers self. What does self mean here? The mind. The mind. Yeah. And what does it mean to conquer the mind? See, either we tell the mind what to do or the mind tells us what to do. Yeah. This unripe mind and this chokchol mind, this restless mind, we become slaves to that type of mind. This is really a tremendous problem, a bit of a modern problem also, that so many things disturb the mind, and the mind is disturbed. I'm disturbed. We can't separate ourselves from the mind until the mind becomes very calm. Now, theoretically, we should be able to say that if I'm the witness, it doesn't matter what the mind is doing. Mind may be thinking all sorts of terrible thoughts, but I know that I'm the witness, theoretically. But it doesn't work that way. Unless the mind becomes sattvic, because it's also the mind that understands that I am the witness. So the mind has to become very pure and sattvic in order to have that type of realization. Like the two birds. We have that beautiful parable of the two birds. Swamiji, he takes from. It's not really from Mundaka Upanishad.
Oh.
It's a Vedic verse
Oh.
that's quoted in Mundaka Upanishad.
Oh.
Yeah. If you read Mundaka Upanishad, it's very interesting that that verse it's really quoted, and it's not even in good Sanskrit. It's in Vedic Sanskrit. Dwa Suparna should be Dwa Suparna.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all the Vedic dual.
Oh.
Dwa and Suparna. And the verse following that is a modern day Sanskrit commentary on that first verse. Anyhow, Swamiji turns it into a whole parable. And the lower bird at the very beginning looks up at the higher bird, and at that point can't say, oh, I am that higher bird. It won't work because it's full of desires for enjoyment and thinking of itself. It has to go higher and higher and higher. That means it has to become more pure and sattvic and everything before it can really identify with that witnessing bird. Now, who is the bird at the top?
The same one.
The same one, but
The witness.
the witness.
The self. Upper.
Verse following that says that that bird at the top is Isha, Ishwara. Yes, it doesn't say the Atman or anything like that. Yeah. Now, how do we understand that? We have this idea that God dwells within the heart. Ishwara Sarva Bhutes. We know that the Gita verse dwells within the heart and is one with the higher self. So it's not really a contradiction. But this witness, and when we talk about this witness is also the indwelling presence of God. This is why in Gita also, he says, I am the Sakshi. Who is the Sakshi? Who is the Chaitanya? We think who is the knower of the field? Or chapter 13. That who is witnessing all of this? I'm witnessing it, right? Buddha says, no me, this Krishna says. Mamati. That I am the witness in all the fields of all the kshetras, I am the Chaitanya. Now, who is it? Is it God or is it the self?
One and the same.
One and the same. This is that ultimate truth of Vedanta. One and the same. It's neither I nor thou. So this is why Thakur says, when I search for the I search for that Ami, I find Tini. I search for that I find God dwelling in place. Now, problem is, if we say God, then we think, oh, it's not me. If we say it's me, the self, then it's not God. It's actually beyond. It is neither I nor thou. It's something beyond that. Thakur says sometimes in between. In between is and is not in between. So because there's no I in this witness, there's no ego sense within it. There's no personality, 100% impersonal. And yet it's not something other than myself. And yet it's not limited to myself. The same self within all the beings. So it says Isha, the Ishwara, and is the upper bird. But that doesn't mean that there's not also the witness and the real self. So. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Which I think I understand a little bit. It's on the second page.
Second.
Say peace to all from me, no danger be to aught that lives. In those that dwell on high, in those that lowly preach, I am the self in all. So this is peace to all from me, no, there is no danger. Philosophically or intellectually, I understand because I am the Atman and I am in everything. So I cannot be really inimical to anyone because I and you are the same. So how can I hate or love you, hate you, for example? But But then when I am playing a worldly role like Arjuna, if he is a sannyasin in mind, let us say here, but he cannot say to Duryodhana or other enemies that you cannot be afraid of me. But I am going to kill you anyway. So how do you say you are not to be I and you are the one and yet kill each other? I understand the example people give that when a mother says beats or chides her child, she's doing it for her own, for his good, and she herself hurts when she punishes. I can understand those, but to say that, a Republican, for example, a bad Republican, how can I say I don't hate you? There is no danger from me. If I have a way, I will get rid of you, right? So how do you reconcile that?
I think there are certain cases where we have to draw a distinction between the householder and the sannyasin. There are certain things that really apply only to the sannyasin.
Yeah,
Because the sannyasin goes beyond dharma and adharma. There's no duty. There's nothing that has to be done. Swamiji says that this idea of turning the other cheek, of not, yeah, of Christ, if someone strikes you on one cheek, then turn the other cheek, let him strike you on the other cheek. That non-reaction and all of that, that this is not meant for the householder. Only the sannyasin can practice that. So for the householder, if somebody attacks you and your household and everything, you have to fight. And you can't say from me, no fear, nothing like that. Sannyasin can do that. So there are certain things in here that I think are just for those who really renounce everything, that they won't make any distinction at all. But for others, we make the distinction between that indwelling divine presence and this outer covering, which can be very tamasic or rajasic and can injure other people. And then it's a question of dharma for the protection of society, protection of family and everything else, that sometimes these things have to be done. We don't do it necessarily with any malice or take any joy in doing it, but we do it for the welfare of society. And this is always the dilemma, can the soldier get to heaven? It's an old question. Yeah. So if it's done with this idea of dharma and with some positive motive, then of course this is a tricky thing. This is very tricky because almost every religion has something that the righteous soldier that you can kill if you're on the side of righteousness, and you'll go to heaven. Almost every religion. Christianity is the onward Christian soldiers. They did brutalize people on the Crusades.
Yeah.
When they went, they just killed people right and left. But in the name of religion, they'll go to heaven. It was okay, sanctioned. And Islam.
Oh yes.
Islam, that you do it in the name of Allah, you go to heaven. Then Gita. This is a Pavaratam Dwaram, the open gate to heaven. You kill somebody, he tells Arjuna that you kill somebody in a righteous war, the open gate to heaven. Now, all of these things are okay, but who defines righteous war? Yeah, this is the problem. So there has to be some real genuine feeling of what is morally correct. It's very difficult. Yeah. So the sannyasin goes beyond these things. For the sannyasin, I have no family to protect. Only this individual life. You want to take it, you take it. It means nothing to me. So the sannyasin can practice that. The householder can't practice that one. We can do it. The householder can do it in a general way.
In a sense of duty.
Yeah, not just sense of duty, but to give up this idea that the people are enemies. That the real teaching, we find this in many of the scriptures, is that we embrace those that we like, those that we don't like, we practice indifference, not hatred. Udasin. We just, then we try to just keep a little distance. And so we won't actively hate them or fight them or anything, but we won't embrace them. Thakur says, God dwells within everyone. You don't embrace the tiger. God dwells within the tiger. So we have to be a little bit sensible, but we don't hate. See, we can, this was one great thing that Gandhiji understood. He said if he never hated the British people. He hated what they were doing. He could make that distinction. That we hate this evil that may be in the world, but everybody who has a certain set of beliefs does it mostly genuinely. And we may say that they've been misled or that they're not thinking through or this and that, or even if they're based on some meanness, then did they choose to have that meanness? This is the way their makeup is. So then we try to invoke Holy Mother. Don't spend all your time looking at the other people's faults. We have enough faults of our own to look at, and don't spend all your time criticizing other people.
No one is out. No
Yeah.
one is a foreign stranger.
Yeah.
No one is.
What do they say? PNPC?
Yeah, in Bangla we call it all
that
that.
PNPC.
Paraninda,
Paraninda, Parachocha.
Yeah.
That this is even when we take our brahmacharya vows, this is one thing that we take a vow not to engage in that,
Oh,
not to criticize others and not to talk about others. Yeah, of course we don't follow it.
Maharaj, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Swami Shwahanandaji in one of his lecture, and probably he was talking about Swami Shuddhanandaji, and he recollected that anyone came to him for any spiritual advice, he used to say, go and read Sanghabda Sannyasins. It's all there, you don't come and bother me. So now I was wondering, like say being you are so close to Swami Shwahanandaji, did he ever say this thing to you?
Did he say anything to me?
Yeah, like say go and read some of the Sannyasins and everything is in there.
I never heard him say much about this song of Sannyasin. No, I know all about his connection with Swami Shuddhanandaji, that he was very, very close with him, that he had a lot of letters. Have you read his letters?
No, but he referred to that he has letters, and even though they were not even talking during that time, but every year he used to get a few letters, very, very loving letters.
Yeah, what happened when Swamiji was 15, he went to Bellarmठ for initiation with President Maharaj. At that time, he would hope to get initiation from Swami Akhandanandaji, who passed away. So he had initiation from Swami Vijnananandaji. Swami Shuddhanandaji was at Bellarmঠ at that time, and somehow Swami Swamiji, just as a young boy, he felt very attached to him. So he followed him all around. And Swami Shuddhanandaji used to give him different things to read and everything, keep him occupied. But he became very close, he developed a very sweet relationship. And there are a lot of letters that he received, which he saved his whole lifetime. And they've been published. They were published in one of the Bengali books. And now there's an English book coming out. I translated all of the letters into English. Yeah. So they're all coming out.
from the doctor book or no?
It'll come out in his new book, the Dr. Malai Das's new book. It'll come out in that. It was
All the
also
letters.
all of the letters of Swami Shuddhananda that Swami Shuddhananda wrote to him. Yeah, we included that there. So they were very valuable to him. But it is very interesting that Swami Swanandaji almost never gave me any type of advice.
Oh,
Yes. It's kind of an interesting thing that I think he just sensed that I was absorbing his way of doing things.
So maybe it's the Gita reference that the best teaching is when the guru is also silent and the student.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I really remember very few times when he actually would tell me something, some special thing, because he knew that, say, when he sent me to Washington to really start the center there. And he observed, of course, and everything. But he knew that I understood what he wanted done. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to build up the center that he wanted. And in terms of spiritual life, unless I never had too many questions. And he wasn't the type that would just, start giving teachings and everything like that. It was really just his presence. His presence was the most important thing, to be around him and to feel that calmness and that majestic nature and everything.
The whole house transformed.
Everything transformed, and his loving nature, and just how free he was with people. That's how we learned from him mostly. He wasn't one to pontificate and say, oh, do this, do that, or anything like that. But no, I never heard him say anything about the song of the Sannyasin. The two things that we all knew that he liked best were this Arup Shaire, the Swami Paramesanandi's song, poem, and the other was the hymn of Samadhi, Swamiji's hymn. And he used to recite these every morning, at least when he came to Chiruka after meditation. He couldn't sing, he didn't have a singing voice. So he would just recite both of them. So I used to hear that every morning when he was there. So I knew that these were his two favorite things. But Song of the Sannyasin, I